You're listening to the Indie Games Podcast. This is Edmund McMillen.
And this is Tommy Refenes.
And Tommy got his name right.
Yeah, I said my name right. And we're here with Mike and Tim.
Yes.
And they're going to ask us a bunch of questions soon.
That's very true. We have lots and lots of questions. We're going to ask the semi-serious questions first. I'm sure it won't stay serious for long. And then we've got loads of questions from readers as well, which are slightly more messed up. So really, the first thing we want to ask you to describe Super Meat Boy, but we were wondering if you could describe Super Meat Boy as a 3-course meal.
God damn it.
Is that possible? Can you do that?
We can do anything.
All right.
We'll just make something up.
All right, go for it.
Let's see. Course 1 would be, and this is where you take over, Edmund.
Course 1 would be the meat and potatoes.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's weird to start off with meat and potatoes. I realize this, but that's what it's starting off with meat and potatoes because you're getting full fast. There's a lot of content in Meat Boy, and it takes a long time to chew. It's like a really thick steak.
Uh-huh.
You're chewing it and you're enjoying it. And every time your jaw clenches down and the juice comes out, it's like, yeah, I'm getting it. And,
nice.
And you're enjoying it more and more as you go, and you're realizing, oh my god, how am I going to finish this? I can't believe this is just the first course. Because why would they do this to me? There's no way I could finish it. And but you're still enjoying gorging yourself on this food, and yeah, you're feeling sick the whole time, but you're still okay about it.
Okay.
And what's the second course, Tommy?
The second course is a phantom course that consists of magic that acts as a conduit between the first course and the last course. Now, what's the third course, Edmund?
Strangely, the third course is actually another serving of meat and potatoes. You'd think you'd be sick. You'd think you'd be sick of the meat and potatoes, but you're not. Somehow you're not. In a way, I believe that there's probably a man massaging your stomach the whole time, and like you're having bowel movements while you're eating. So it's just going through, and you're feeling comfortable about the whole thing. You're kind of suspended in like a floating sort of thing, and it's not gross in any way. Like there's a tube and it's removing everything clean. It's all clean. You're very, very, very comfortable. You're feeling good about everything. You're feeling very compelled to finish the final course, which actually comes in the form of content that's downloaded onto the game that is endless. Okay, nice. So technically, this course is something that you're going to continue this course for months and months and months, and eventually next year, there's going to be other people that come in and make you more meat and potatoes from another area, and they're going to give you more meat and potatoes, and there's just you keep getting meat and potatoes, and you keep getting meat and potatoes, and you don't get sick of it somehow. So you're very well fed and spoiled in a way for other games like Sonic.
If I could go back to talking about eating while having bowel movements, have you ever done that? Have you ever eaten something while you've been on the toilet?
I've got a story for you, Tommy.
Okay.
This is okay because my sister's never going to listen to this podcast. My sister, I used to go into the bathroom. So we had one shared a bathroom basically, and I remember going in, and the first time this happened many times. First time this happened, and I go and I sit down on the toilet and I look up and there's a food tray in front of me with a half-eaten burrito and the telephone. And that was at the point when my sister was going through this phase where she would go microwave a chimichanga or a burrito, go into the bathroom, and sit down and talk on the phone while she ate her burrito while she took a shit. So I can't say that I've done it, but I've known of people who have.
The closest I've ever come to doing that is once I was drinking a ginger ale and I had to pee really bad. So I ran to the bathroom with the ginger ale, and as I'm peeing, I just instinctively just took a drink, and I felt really weird.
It's a strange thought. It sounds unnatural putting stuff in your body and removing things from your body at the same time.
It's very zen.
Nice. That was a nice answer. So obviously most of the people who read indie games are PC gamers. We kind of wanted to ask some things about the PC version of Super Meat Boy first. I guess the first question is, where is Super Meat Boy going to be available other than Steam?
We're going to do a custom version on our website, and then I think just direct to drive. But
I'm eventually going to do a physical version. I doubt it's going to come out around the same week as the PC version because we're pushing it as it is. But I guess it takes a few weeks to print. But I want to print out like the CD that I put out a while back. I want to do like a physical printing special edition that comes with podcasts like these, behind the scenes stuff, and maybe some like custom videos with commentary by us and stuff like that.
Cool.
It's special for the fans.
Nice.
I have a question. You said that you plan to include the level editor for the PC version of Super Meat Boy. I was wondering how flexible is it? Can you create your own characters or background art for the levels?
no, it's actually, I guess eventually we could expand it so you could make your own palettes and stuff. But right now it's basically the exact same editor that Ed has used, but it's all of the palettes that are already in the game. You could make every single level in the game except for the boss levels.
Uh-huh.
And as far as characters and stuff, we don't have that open up, but it's a possibility that we could open it up later on. But initially it's just going to be a friendlier version of the editor that Edmund currently uses. But depending on how it's received and how people like it and stuff, we may expand it so people could maybe add their own characters and stuff like that. But that's a big if.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a possibility, but just not something we're currently planning on right now.
Okay, cool. Have you decided on whether you're going to be setting up a separate site for people to upload their own levels to and stuff, so people can just browse through all the levels?
That is the plan, is to have like a central repository where you can see levels and people can sort of rank them by difficulty and how good they are. Kind of like what Edmund's game Timefuck had. Basically just like that, because I really, really liked that system, and I think it made sharing levels really, really easy. I'd like to have something like that, and I am thinking about it.
Okay, so I guess we'll probably see that in the months after release.
Yeah, I mean, I want to do something like that as the editor is coming out.
Yeah.
But again, it'll probably rely on how well the editor is received.
Is the editor going to be available straight away, or will that be an update later on?
Yeah, that's actually going to be an update later on.
Okay. We're going to have some kind of like indiegames.com competition to make the best level or something.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
The cool thing about it too is, so this was our way to like bridge the gap between the Xbox version and the PC version, because we wanted to do a level editor on all systems, but it's not possible anymore because of legal issues. Like, in order to do so, we have to have a dedicated server and a team of people that approve content, and if anything slips through the cracks, we can get sued. Like, if somebody makes a big dick that goes live, we could get in a lot of trouble that we can't afford, and we can't afford this stuff initially for launch regardless. So we had to cut it out, and we were trying to think of a way to do it. And the Internet's feature and the Xbox Live version will actually let us in the future take the best of levels that work on the Xbox and put them up there. So, the Xbox players will actually get to experience some of what the PC players are making.
Oh, okay.
So it's a cool way to give back and make, again, for an endless serving of meat and potatoes. And also to put it into perspective of where we are right now development-wise. We wrapped up development pretty recently for the Xbox version, which is surprising. I'm currently starting on PC stuff, mostly the characters, getting new characters ready, and I'm going to have to redo a lot of menus and stuff. The PC version will be the easiest to, I guess you could say, port. That's not really a port. What would you say, customize?
Yeah, basically, because, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the PC version is done code-wise. We just need to, remake some menus, and I need to code in some characters and stuff like that.
But then we have the Wii version, which is going to be a pain in the ass because Tommy needs to shrink 500 megs to 38 megs.
Oh yeah, one very astute commenter once pointed out that I should just use compression. So thank you, and I will.
How is that even going to be possible to get it down so dramatically?
I don't know really. I'm gonna do my best. It will definitely have the entire game is not a problem. It's the audio that's a problem. You might have some crackly sounds on the Wii version, but whatever. The Wii version is crackly for almost everything anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Maybe just send people CDs that they can listen to while they're playing it.
It'll be like an old-timey movie where you have to play the record and watch the movie.
Yeah.
Or maybe just have it as a silent movie, and every time you die, the word splat appears on the screen. Something like that.
That'd be kind of cool, too.
Yeah.
After the Wii version, we have the Mac version, and then we have the editor, and then we have editor support and all that sort of stuff, too. So we've still got a lot of development ahead of us. It's not as stressful as what the hell that we were locked into for the past 2 months, but it's still a lot of work. So we're taking it as it goes. We're still in development.
Cool. Okay, we're into the section that I've titled Mike's Random Questions now. So the first question in my random questions is, how did you decide which indie characters to have as the unlockables?
There were 2 factors that went into that. One was if we really liked the game that it was from. 2 was how could it work in the game. And if it could work in the game, how could it actually add to the design of the game? So a lot of characters, there are 2 types of characters. There's the support characters, and there's the exploit characters. And usually the support characters, which come early on in the game, which are characters like Gish, Alien Hominid, and Jill. Those characters will actually help the player start out. So Gish makes wall jumping and anything that has to do with wall precision. It makes it a lot easier. He can also climb on the ceiling. Alien Hominid, he gives a slight boost to jumping up, so he has a slightly higher jump than most other characters. He can also slow his fall just a bit too, so he has really good jump control. And Jill has really good, she has the best fall control because she can stop herself as she's falling, so she can fall really slow. And Commander Video has the best air control horizontally. So all those characters are support characters that help you get used to the game as you progress. And then once you hit the middle point, that's when Tim comes in, who can rewind time. He's kind of like an odd wild card character, I guess. After that, you start getting characters that can double jump, triple jump. It's like Tim can rewind time. Spelunky can explode through the air and shoot across the screen. Those characters have abilities that allow you to access certain parts of the levels or certain band-aids or certain warp zones that are early on in the game that you couldn't get to with other characters. And you kind of we'll go back through and explore and find faster ways to beat levels and that sort of stuff too. But those characters also come with drawbacks of being more advanced. Usually their controls they might feel a little crazy. Like Spelunky, once he explodes across the screen, you can't really stop him. You can't control him in the air. It's like crazy risky. And like Fly Wrench, he's very heavy, so he falls really quick too. So there's always a drawback to each of those things. So basically they had to fit into these little different molds. And what we're currently doing for the PC version is basically trying to replace certain characters with new characters that are more appropriate for PC that also have abilities that will allow you to get to those places as well.
Cool. Were there any characters you wanted to get who then you asked the developer and they didn't respond or they said they'd rather not?
One.
Yeah, one.
Be a huge disappointment for Wii fans because we tried our hardest to get quote from Cave Story and he would not budge.
Why? Why was that?
There was no reason. Just no. The answer was no repeatedly.
Yeah.
We heard that Japanese developers aren't keen on crossovers. That's all we've heard. That's the only clue on why. But I mean, he actually asked the what was it, the TIG Smash Brothers game? I forget what they called it.
Oh, Indie Brawl.
Yeah. Indie Brawl. He actually asked them to take him out of Indie Brawl. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, not a fan of the crossover, I guess.
No.
It would cool. It would have been really cool, and he would have replaced Alien Hominid and had a blaster and everything else. It was all planned. He was going to be able to shoot downwards to boost his jump up. He was going to be able to shoot downwards to slow his fall. And he was going to be able to shoot backwards as he went forwards when he jumped to project himself a little further. Yeah. That was his design, and Alien Hominid basically took his place.
Would you not have had Alien Hominid if you'd managed to get a quote?
I think he would have had different abilities.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to ask you about the replays at the end of each level because they are pretty incredible, really. How did you come upon that idea?
I'll just say it was right at the beginning of Meat Boy development. I saw this video, and it was called Quantum Mario. And what it was a modified Super NES emulator that, like, people would mod it, and they made their own levels and stuff. But this one, they could overlay every attempt of the level and play it all at the same time. So what you had was, like, 128 Marios that were playing through this one level, this one really, really hard level. So, like, all the Marios would jump to this one platform, and then they would all jump to the next, but then, like, half of them would get hit by a bullet, and then, like, 10 of them would fall off this way, and 10 would fall off this way, and then it just sort of progressed and went through and through and through until there was just one Mario that kind of made it through. And as I was looking at that, I'm like, I can totally do that in real time, and I'm going to put this in Super Meat Boy, so I did.
Was making the replays something hard to do? Because I remember when I was playing the IGF version, it didn't seem to work all the time, but now it seems to work pretty well.
There's a funny story about that too. So yeah, I kept improving on it as we were going through development, just making it better. Because yeah, the IGF build was actually the first version of it. So like one of the reasons it didn't work back then was because Meat Boy wouldn't stick to walls in the replays, but he would in the actual game, so it would throw his timing off. But as we got into more and more complex levels, I couldn't do stuff like we have in the last chapter. We have these things that are missile blocks, and missile blocks are broken by kiting a missile into these blocks so it opens up a path. Well, that's cool with one Meat Boy, but with like 20 Meat Boys, you have to have 20 instances of a missile, then you have to have 20 instances of the block, and then you have to keep track of each one of those to make sure that the person that activated the block at this time is only able to go through that block when it's actually gone after the instance missile has hit it. It's a giant mindfuck. So what I did, like 2 days before certification, is I rewrote the entire replay section, and now it's perfect because it doesn't instance anything. It just plays everything almost like a video on top of everything. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't hard. It was just, it could have worked the way I originally had it in the beginning, but as we got into more complex levels and stuff, it was just not feasible. But now, like the system that it has, it's perfect. Every single time it'll end up correct.
Yep.
I have a question about the advert that you put out a few days ago, the commercial trailer. Who came up with the idea for the advertisement, and who is it in the advert?
So first off, the ad was done by James Id, who actually did our teaser trailer about a year and a half ago. It was a Liquid Television-esque or MTV bumper-esque video of a man eating Meat Boy with like crazy sharp teeth. It was really weird, kind of depressing. We talked about doing a launch trailer, and we talked, basically all it was I was talking to him about it would be awesome to do an early 90s parody video game commercial that looked genuine, looked like it really could be from the 90s. And I was pretty surprised to find out that nobody had really done that ever, because it seemed pretty ripe, I guess, for parody. So yeah, basically that was it, and he kind of picked it up and ran with it, and the girl in the video, her name's Gabrielle, I believe, and he knew her and hired her. She's just an actress. He did the video himself, and that. The announcer voice is Wiggly from We Talk Games, which we did a podcast just like this with him, and I really liked his voice. And me and Tommy had always talked about how perfect it would be to have an announcer yell "Super Meat Boy" when the game started, kind of like Super Street Fighter, because it just seemed perfect, you know. And we could never find anybody who sounded perfect or could really even do it. And when we heard his voice, I knew right away that I'm like, oh my god, this is the exact announcer voice for Meat Boy. We need this guy. And we asked him, and he was really cool and really down with it and really loved the game. So he donated his voice for Super Meat Boy, and then we asked him if he was down with the commercial, and he wrote all his audio basically. Like, we just said, hey, go nuts. You know what we're doing. You put your own 2 cents in here, and he just threw out memories, I guess he had of early 90s quotes from video games and just threw them all out there, and James put them all together, and we popped it up online, and that was that.
Nice.
Do the math.
Can you read out more lines from the commercial?
Push the buttons. That was a good one.
Move fast. Jump back.
Yeah. And there's also poke when
poke.
Meat Boy pokes to the guy with the stick.
Are you a bad enough dude to save your girlfriend? That's my favorite line. I just say from
Amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm really happy with how that turned out. James did a really, really, really great job.
But
Yeah, it
in
was-
the end, did any of them get paid for it?
No, this was all a donation thing from James. We don't have any money.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Nothing.
even,
They get nothing.
I want you to erase his name from this podcast. No credit.
I was
No,
the
you know,
announcer.
That's the thing about Meat Boy development that I think a lot of people don't understand, because a lot of people think that we have money. Number one, they think that we're funded by Microsoft. They think all this sort of stuff. We don't have any money. Tommy's gone into the red negative many times.
Yeah.
It's been very hard development wise. Danny and our sound guy, this is all like for the love of the game. They're gonna get paid when we get paid, which will hopefully be in a few months. They're giving us their time and praying and hoping that the game does well so they get paid. So this has just been all love and trust, and we don't have any fucking money. We don't have anything.
Nice.
Right.
The last question in my random question section, I was thinking about kind of the games that have come out this year which have really grasped my attention. And really the three main indie games that I have really loved this year were Super Meat Boy, Limbo, and V as well. And I was thinking about it and realizing that the three games have quite a lot in common, really. You've kind of got the hilarious deaths, you've got the multiple deaths, you've got the second you've died, then you respawn instantly, right before the death. Do you think that it's just all coincidence that all of these games are quite similar?
I wouldn't put Limbo in the category of instant death coming back sort of situation, because I remember being pretty discouraged a lot of the time, being pushed, because you get pushed back far and it takes a little bit to backtrack where you were. But yeah, of course there are similarities between Super Meat Boy and V, because I think both us and Terry are moving down the same path as far as refining platformers. I mean, there's similarities too, I think, between Meat Boy and Give Up Robot. I mean, Matt is also a huge pioneer in platformers, and he knows what he's doing as well. And I think we're just all kind of moving in the same direction and realizing what new difficulty needs to change and how can we change it, and what is punishment, how can we remove it from games, and what can we do to refine the platformer down to perfect state, basically. And I think a lot of us came to the conclusion early on that the penalty for dying in new current platformers is the time that it takes for you to respawn, and we shaved it off to nothing. It's like an instant thing, and we also took the levels down so the levels were small enough to not be discouraging as well. There's a difference between being difficult and being frustrating, and now maybe later in the game Meat Boy maybe gets a little frustrating, but I wouldn't ever say that it's that frustrating. I think that it's quite difficult, but it's not punishing enough to be frustrating in the traditional sense.
I think because the levels are all bite-sized, I've not found that it has got frustrating yet, because you die, but you think to yourself, I've just died 5 seconds into the level, so I'm going to be there in another 5 seconds' time.
We found out early on that people will forget. It's funny to watch, because I know a lot of people will probably see videos of Meat Boy, and they'll see people playing, and they'll wonder, why the hell is this person continuously playing this level and dying? Aren't they frustrated? Because I think as a viewer, you see yourself like, I'd be giving up by now. Like, this looks dumb. Why are they not giving up? But when you're actually playing it, you forget about your misses, and you only remember your hits. So it's like this psychological switch where you're only thinking about the good things that you've done, and then you instantly get rewarded by a replay at the end of the level, and you're being rewarded by other things as you go. And you're also being rewarded knowing that you finished the level yourself, and you did it, and you didn't die because the controls are bad or because the game's fucking with you. You died because you fucked up. Like, you know that you did it, and when you do something good, you know that you did it by yourself, and it feels good. And I think all that combined really gives this experience that you forget about losing, and it's not really that discouraging at all. You kind of enjoy it. It's very ADD. It's like early on we talked about Meat Boy being like platformer meets WarioWare, where you're constantly getting rapid fire bells and whistles and cool things happening and instant feedback here and there, and even for your mistakes you're still getting some sort of visual reward. So it keeps it entertaining enough to push you through hard parts, really. And it's pretty cool. But like I was saying before, it was cool early on in the game. Yeah, the levels are really short, and then later in the game I play around with making levels actually easier but making them longer. So there's a psychological factor in, like, one of the hardest levels in the game is actually really easy technically, because the jumps that you're doing are really, really basic, and they're all stuff that you've done before. But the level's so long that you break. By the time you get to the top, you've seen how far you've gotten, and the pressure's on so much that you'll make a mistake. And it was pretty cool to play around with that and kind of see how people, and even myself, react to stressful situations and how stress can add to the difficulty of a game. Even placing a player up high will cause stress and in turn cause them to make mistakes and make a level more difficult, even though technically it might be easier. So it was fun to play around with difficulty and learn as I go, I guess.
Mm-hmm. We now have some questions about the IGF.
Were you surprised that Super Meat Boy didn't pick up an IGF award?
Yes and
Yes.
no.
I'd say just yes.
Were you sore at losing to Monaco?
No, I wasn't sore losing to Monaco. If we lost anything else, I think we would have been a lot more upset.
Such as?
Well, I mean, Joe Danger maybe, or
Trauma.
I mean, anything other than Monaco, I would have probably been a little bit more upset about because it just seemed like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's honestly, for me, it's still a touchy subject in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it really
There
is.
are elements that are. It was mostly the people. There were a lot of people that came up to us before and after the awards that said, "Hey, I just want to let you guys know I voted for Monaco because he needed it."
Yeah, because we didn't need it for something.
Because we already had the deal, or people coming up to me directly and saying, "I voted for Monaco because you already won,"
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But I mean, I think underneath it all, I kind of felt like I knew that Monaco might win because of the situation with Gish in 2005 when Gish was going head-to-head with Alien Hominid for the grand prize, and we all believed that Alien Hominid was going to beat us because they had so much going for them, and it seemed like a better game, mainstream-wise. And we won, and it seemed like there's the popular versus the underdog, and the underdog seems to always win. I think Cran Physics beat out World of Goo.
Yeah.
Aquaria and Castle Crashers were in the same
Mhm.
IGF. It's always like that. It just seems like the underdog always seems to win. Which
Yeah,
is,
they seem to treat it more like a scholarship more than an actual like.
Yeah, in that way, I know that we were pretty put off by the IGF. If nobody had said anything, I probably would have not had these feelings. Like, if people wouldn't have come up to me and told me that the reason why they voted for Monaco is because we didn't need it, I would have felt a lot better about losing.
Yeah. Yeah, but like when you have like 10 people come up and say that, even like prominent people like Brian Crescente at the awards ceremony. Well, what did he say? He's like, oh, you guys really don't need a win then. And it's like, well, I also don't need a fucking A1C of 8, but I have that already, so I might as well have a fucking trophy to go with it. But, you know.
So it was the written feedback that you got back. Was that along the same lines?
No, our feedback was really positive.
Yeah, it was super positive.
Mm.
We got no negative feedback from Meat Boy. It was pretty.
Yeah, the only like sort of negative feedback was they couldn't give us high on design because all we had was the forest in the IGF build.
Mm.
Yeah, we should probably point that out too. We had very, very, very little when we entered. It was not the game that you guys are playing now for sure. So don't like think that the game that we entered was that, because it wasn't even close. We didn't have bosses. We had like 1.5 chapters basically. There were
For final judging, we did have chapter 2 and the boss.
Yeah, but it's still 2 chapters of a
Yeah.
7+ chapter game.
The boss was different, wasn't it? The boss was kind of like you had to make animals run into him and stuff.
Yeah,
We trashed
fixed
that
that.
boss.
That boss was dumb. It's still the same boss, but it's just played differently.
Yeah.
Can I go back to the Monaco comment? Can you name like a few other people who mentioned that Monaco should have won IGF?
I don't want to name names because I don't want to get people in trouble.
Yeah, and I don't mean to get Brian Crescente in trouble, but he did come up and say that to us at the peak of stress, because that was in the award show. I'm sitting there, I can't shit because I'm constipated. I definitely have diarrhea. So it's like this insane hell going on in my stomach. Plus my sugar is dropping and going high and going low and going high, and
It's really, really impossible to come off remotely good with this sort of question here, so there's no point of even trying, and obviously we're not.
Yeah.
But, but I can tell you right now that I think the IGF situation overall was so stressful. I mean, like, I'm not entering the IGF anymore, and it has nothing to do with losing, but it has to do with the fact that IGF always puts so much stress on me, like having to worry and lose sleep over even if I'm going to get in, and if I do get in, who doesn't get in? Majority of my friends won't get in, and then I have to feel depressed about that. And overall, it's usually quite a downer. I've won once and I've lost repeatedly, and the other losses were never a huge deal, but the stress is what really kills it. And for us actually coming back and trying to finish this game after losing and after being so stressed out needlessly for this award show that really we shouldn't really care that much about, but we do. It's hard not to put in so much emotion to something like this. It kind of destroyed us in a way, and we lost a good month of development because it sucked to lose, and also it sucked to be so stressed out for so long over something that really didn't matter in the long run.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we might maybe come off as bitter, because it was really, really stressful. It was stupidly stressful over something we logically shouldn't have been that stressed out about, and it was just hard to remove the emotion from the experience. And I can't say that it's the IGF's fault, and I'm not trying to point fingers and say, hey, it's better if, but
that's the whole thing. It was crazy stressful. I remember when they announced like on the 7th or something like that. I remember the night of the 6th. I came so close to having like a breakdown, like going through possibilities of not getting in, or only getting in for this, or not getting, just all these different possibilities that I was like in tears, in stress before they even announced who actually made it in. And it was like that, like stress affects me like a crazy amount because I'm diabetic, and it means that my sugar bounces up and down, which means that it just makes me feel like I'm dying, quite literally. And that fucks with my head. So then I think, oh God, I'm dying. I need to go to the hospital or something. And it was just absolute hell. And yeah, that's the reason I won't enter again, is I can't deal with the stress very well. And I take it so seriously that there's no chance that I could ever enter and be like, oh, if I get in, I get in. If I don't, I don't. And then if I got in, oh, if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't. Because it's my brain doesn't work that way.
Me and Tommy are really, really, really personally invested in this. Like, I've never been so personally invested in a game before. We're really sacrificing a great deal, and it's hard to not attach that bit of, personalness to the game in the negative aspect as well, where if something negative happens about the game or somebody says something negative about the game, it's hard not to take it personally, even with the experience that I have with making games. It's hard to remove myself from this picture because it's so much of me and Tommy. And that, of course, added to the stress and the amount of emotional involvement in the process, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I think in the end it'll show how much emotion and time and effort that we put into the game. One sec, there's kids screaming outside.
I was wondering whose end that was on.
Fuck, Jesus. And I can still hear him when the fucking doors. Whatever. Anyway, all I'm saying is that we put a lot into this game, and hopefully it'll show in the end. But there are definitely a lot of negatives to putting so much of yourself into your work. I was actually the one that entered us into PAX. Tommy did not want to enter, and he did not want to know about it. He didn't want to talk about it until it actually happened, because there was, of course, stress that goes with that as well. I was the one that entered PAX. I really enjoyed the PAX experience, mostly because I thought it was pretty cool that everybody that entered was a winner, essentially. Of course, it still sucks for people who didn't make it in, or not enter, but made it into the 10. I did like that more, but all awards and judging and stuff always gets a little weird when it comes to art. I can't help but feel for the people that didn't make it in, and like I touched on before, like sometimes it was really, really hard for me to make it into the IGF and then have friends of mine who didn't make it in. I would have much rather not made it in, because it sucks, and I know it sucks not to make it in, and I know it sucks not to win and everything else like that, and I know so many people are so personally invested in their work, and it's hard not to take it personally, like I've said before. And that way, I think judging art does suck, and it sucks to have to do it. But either way, I think I personally overstayed my welcome in the IGF, and I don't foresee myself entering many more competitions, or if any. I mean, at this point, I could say that I don't want to enter any competitions anymore. I'm kind of over it. Who knows? Maybe I'll get really desperate and want some sort of extra recognition for what I'm doing later on.
Me.
Right, let's go off on a complete tangent. What is your favourite level or world in Super Meat Boy?
Oh, that's a hard one.
That is very
Shit.
hard. The one I really, really like is called Panic Attack, and it's in one of the, I don't want to give anything away, but it's in one of the later chapters. And yeah, it's just this bridge where you get a key, and then you have to very, very quickly complete the level, and it's very, very awesome.
Man, I forgot about that one.
I love that level.
God, no, it's too hard. There are certain, like when we introduce a different mechanics, there's a formula to the mechanics. So I'll usually introduce a new mechanic, then I'll give another example of the mechanic, then the mechanic combined with some other one that's previously introduced, and then I'll pass on to the next one. So you usually get 3 to 4 levels with each mechanic, and usually one of those levels is really good. It's like pinnacle of the mechanic. The one that always sticks out when I keep touching on it, so I might as well say it. In Chapter 4, which is Hell, there is a level, it's one of the eye levels, which you guys, I don't even know if you're that familiar.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really, really, really liked making the levels in Hell because Hell has like an action puzzle element to it, so you actually have to think on your feet as you go. And the eyes were just really cool. I really enjoyed what they brought to the game, and there's a really, really good eye level that I thought was pretty fucking cool. You can actually trick the eyes, it's pretty cool, but you have to hide behind a block and then jump up enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool. That was actually fun. Like, John came over a few weeks ago and he was playing those levels, and I could tell that he liked the levels, and it made me happy. And that was one of the levels where I'm like, yeah, you gotta play this level, you'll like the eyes. I also like the switches that happen later in the game too. Like the level that Tommy talked about is an expansion of a level in Chapter 5, which has to do with a forced run, basically. It's all a play on, there's a part in Mario 2, World 4, Level 2, I think. There's this level where you're on ice, and there's all these Shy Guys that have little forks that are flying. I think they call them Fly Guys. And they're in a pattern that's locked into place, and you've got to jump, duck, jump while ducking, and like it's this really cool reflex-based thing that feels really, really, really good when you do it right. And that's what I base those levels off of because I really enjoyed that in Mario. It was one of my favorite Mario moments, and it's very reminiscent of that. If you play that, you'll kind of see. But yeah, anything that makes you feel really fucking cool for doing it is probably one of my favorite levels. Yeah. I like the Adam Sportsman level. I like the Cannonball level a lot. That was one of the first really early, really difficult levels. It's called the Saltman.
The Saltman.
And that's in Chapter 3. That was one of my favorite levels.
Cool.
Of course, I'm talking about all these levels that people I have no fucking clue about.
But, still soon enough.
When you mentioned the name John, which John are you referring to?
John Blow lives in San Francisco, and he recently visited, and I showed him the game, and he played it. There was the last 2 months of development, me and Tommy were so isolated that like we weren't really talking to anybody but our immediate family and not really leaving the house. And John was nice enough to kind of check in and see how we were doing, and he came by to check out the game. That was a morale boost, I guess, in the end of development for sure when he came and played.
About the soundtrack, since you are releasing the level editor for free, we'll be releasing the soundtrack for free as well.
We cut a deal with Danny where he has the rights to all of his music because we thought that was just right. So he can do whatever he wants with the soundtrack, and that's completely up to him. And the money he makes off the soundtrack is all his because he made the music. So yeah, we don't know. I believe he's going to be selling the soundtrack. I don't know how much for. I believe he's also going to do a printed copy. I don't have the details on that though. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Like, what was the total? What was the total number of tracks that he actually did, including musical scores?
I think he did like at least 30.
I think it's more like 36.
Yeah, it's something crazy. Like there is a ton of music in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he really went above and beyond, and he deserves all the money he can get. So, yeah, buy his album when it comes out. I think he's actually working. I feel shitty for not knowing every detail. I think he's working on getting people to donate remixes as well.
Yeah, he's holding a contest on OC Remix to do like remixes of some of the tracks. I do know he's doing that, and those are going to be on the soundtrack. So that's really cool.
I'll go as far as saying Danny is by far the most talented musician in indie games or indie overall. Like he's
in the running for most talented musician, not in just indie games, but I think in games in general. Have you ever seen him make music?
I haven't seen him yet.
It is retarded. He sits there and he's like, oh, I'm gonna put a little melody right here, and then he just takes the mouse and goes, and then he plays it back and it sounds amazing. I don't know how the hell you did that, but whatever.
Awesome. What is the hardest game you've ever played, and how does Super Meat Boy compare to it?
The hardest game I've ever played is Ghosts and Goblins.
Ah, yeah.
But it doesn't compare to it because Ghosts and Goblins was hard because the controls were really bad and it was really hardcore and it penalized you like really bad. It's really, honestly, it's really hard to talk about difficulty in comparison to other games when it comes to Meat Boy because it's not difficult in the way that most people perceive difficulty. It's not punishing. Like all the games that I think of as difficult, as really hard, are all these really, really grueling and punishing games that give you, a handful of lives to complete the whole game and have bad controls and are really primitive, and that's why they're hard. Meat Boy is in the new kind of hard, like V or N or Give Up Robot. It gets hard. I mean, it will go as far as you will go. Like, if you want to go there and you want it to be really, really hard, there is stuff for you. We made sure that there are a few levels that are reminiscent of Through the Fire and Flames and Guitar Hero that are just unbelievably difficult and very, very challenging for people who are willing to go that extra mile, but those are in no way requirements for you in order to complete the game, so you don't have to worry about that. But they're there. They're there for bragging rights.
So if you beat those difficult levels, is there like some kind of special reward?
Yes.
Yeah. There's all kinds of rewards in the game.
Yeah, there's definitely rewards for those difficult levels. One of them that, of course, has been leaked repeatedly before we even okayed reviews was the kid from I Wanna Be the Guy has by far the hardest warp level set in the game. If you want to get him, and he's really good, he's a very well-rounded.
Is he the double jumper?
He's a double jumper that is almost as fast as Meat Boy.
Oh
so,
man, I think I was playing that one today. Is that like in World 5? It's like 5-7 or so. Oh my god, I was on that for an hour this morning. Fucking hell. I must have died over 2,000 times this morning. It's actually impossible.
The funny thing is last minute I made it easier.
Yeah, it was retardedly hard.
Yeah.
Because I can get about halfway through it, and then I look at the rest and I think, even if I manage to do this bit, I can't fucking do that bit.
That's the thing that I loved about that one so much was, so the overall goal with Warp Zones was to create a feel like that it's a mini game. Like, that's the idea, that you're being removed from Meat Boy and you're being put in a mini game. There's a few Warp Zones that really feel like that, and that's one of them where, like, once you're in, you've got 3 levels to beat, and once you've beaten the first level, you've basically committed. Now, there's the whole, like, do I turn off the game at this point? You're going on what your tolerance is, basically. It's all tolerance here. And you're like, okay, I realize that if I just get frustrated and turn this game off at this point, I'm going to have to play that first level again, which is hard enough. Now, do I commit and just go all out here and invest in this, or do I give up? And it's definitely the defining difficult moment in the game where you're like, oh, fuck. Okay, I beat the first level. I gotta do it now. And it makes me happy to know that quite a few people have unlocked him and have completed that, because I was like, holy shit, this is gonna be really, really hard.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time during development that you thought that you might be calling it quits? It was just getting a bit too much.
Never like calling it quits, but like as we were going through certification and our goddamn testers would not leave me the fuck alone. They kept pulling out memory cards and pissing on the Xbox while saving and reporting bugs and shit. There was a time there where I just go, oh my god, we are not going to make certification. We're not going to hit the 20th. Everything's fucked. We are fucked now. And then Edmund, of course, calmed me down. But yeah, that was, but it was never, you know what I did that day, though? I stayed up for 24 hours and fixed all the fucking bugs. So it was never a quit thing. It was just, oh, fuck, this is too much.
Yeah, this is, for me, it was, I of course always kept this from Tommy, but I had quite a few breakdowns where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I would be talking to my wife about it and be like, this just isn't worth it, and this is horrible. Like, why are we... I felt extra guilty because I saw how much work Tommy had extra work to do in order to finish this, and I felt so guilty, and it just seemed like is this really worth it? You know, like, is this really worth all this punishment for this game? Like, it was hard. It was honestly so fucking hard. The last 2 months of development were the hardest thing that I've ever experienced, like, by far. It was like concentration camp style torture. I felt like I was losing my mind. Like, you lose so much sleep, and you get used to 5 hours of sleep you get every day, and the fact that when you wake up, you're working, and you're working until the end of the day, and it's just, like, looking back on it, it seems so nuts. I don't know how we did it. It just seems insane. Like, I would never wish it on anybody. Console development, and especially the release schedule that we were put on and the date that we had to meet, was so hard, and I would never wish it on anybody. And when people told me, you know, you guys don't realize how hard console development is going to be, and I said, I had no clue. I had no idea, because you just don't know until you're experiencing it. But, I mean, I got a few emails from other developers who are in the midst of heavy console dev, and they're definitely seem to be feeling similar. And I know a lot of people go through this kind of stress, but Jesus Christ, I hope it's worth it.
So would you develop for consoles again?
Yeah.
For a while.
Not for a while, but yeah. We need a little bit of a break. I need to get a girlfriend. That's what I did, because it's getting a little ridiculous.
You should put your number out in this podcast, because I know that this is a high demographic for hot ladies.
Yeah, it's surprising how many females are actively following the indie game scene. It's surprising. I can't walk down the street without some really hot brunette girl going, "Hey, aren't you Tommy Refenes? Don't you hate the App Store?" And I go, "Oh, not again." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I really love what you said. Oh man." But then it's always followed with, "My boyfriend really likes that too." And then I just walk.
This is a question to you, Edmund. Did you hold back on reporting about problems or bugs to Tommy?
Yeah. I never lied to Tommy, but I definitely would only say things that needed to be said in appropriate times. I didn't want to overwhelm him when he was fucking overloaded with shit.
Yeah.
I felt guilty enough as it was to report a bug to him, and when I know he was losing it, when things were so stressful. I tried my best to be a friend and make sure I was looking out for him and his health and his best interest. What I would do is I would make sure I saw a moment of right when I saw Tommy getting happy. If I turn on the webcam and I see a little half smile of Tommy, I'll be like, "Oh, well, good thing you're smiling, Tommy, because
here's a list."
There's this list I got. Here you go. You know, you got to, of course, wear a lot of hats. And the end of development, I of course, had shitloads of level edits, and I did what I could, but realistically, the amount of bugs that I had that I could fix were probably a good 2% of the bugs overall. So Tommy had a shitload of work to do, and, you know, all I could do is, you know, hand jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's weird over webcam, but you know what? It still works. There's a reason why cam shows make so much money. I'll give you that right there.
You got to get creative.
Be creative.
Well, let's move swiftly on to which one out of the two of you is best at Super Meat Boy?
Probably Edmund now, because the last 2 months he was just 100%ing the game over and over and over. And all I was doing was making sure that if some moron goes to save the game and then kicks their memory card in half, that it doesn't lose their progress and shows them a message. So I'd say Edmund's probably better at the game.
If you sat down and started playing the game and had to unlock all the unlockables, how long do you reckon it would take?
I know for a fact, because I did it 3 times in the last week of development. It takes about 9 hours, which is very long when you're playing a game for 9 hours in the same day and you have to beat it. The cool thing is I never got sick of it, and I learned like a lot of tricks and that stuff that Tommy doesn't even know, certain shortcuts through levels and stuff like that, and you get used to it. But yeah, no, there's a lot of content there, and that took a shitload of time to test. It's funny though to see like people who are really good. You can tell when people are really good at platformers how quickly they beat it. Like Matt and Terry both have completed the game, and I think they beat it. They beat the Light World in the first day. It seems like the average person takes about 3 or 4 days to beat the Light World. I think that's not to say that Adam Saltzman is average, but I'm using him as a basis, as he was able to complete the game within 3.5 days, it seems. And that's just the Light World, and now they're of course working on the Dark World. if you're really good, it'll take you about a week to complete the Dark World as well.
Okay, if Super Meat Boy had been made in the 90s, which console would you have made it for?
Super NES.
Oh yeah.
Not Mega Drive?
No, it would have been Super NES.
I was a total Super Nintendo fanboy. I was the guy on the schoolyard that was arguing that Mortal Kombat was better because Raiden's fatality looked cooler.
And blood wasn't important. You didn't need the blood.
It didn't matter. Which is, I guess, is strange at this point, but
Yeah.
Super Nintendo is like arguably one of the best consoles ever made, so definitely.
We'll be making more Super Meat Boy commercials for other platforms.
Yes. There's one in the works already that's finished. The guys from Area 5, they made a commercial for us, and it's finished, and hopefully will be going up in the next week or two. And James said that he would really love to do a commercial for the Wii launch. So, yeah, I mean, if anybody wants to make commercials for us, go nuts. We'll take whatever you want to throw at us.
Yeah, and we will also not pay for them.
Okay, Edmund, do you have any new Meat Boy tattoos? Or will you be getting any?
I think we're all going to get Meat Boy tattoos once it comes out, if it does well. If it does poorly, then we're just going to kill ourselves.
Yeah.
Two extremes.
If it does poorly, I'm getting a hydrophobia tattoo.
On my face.
Yeah.
That's going to be my suicide note. It just says hydrophobia. And then
Yeah. And then I'm going to drown myself in the bathtub. We're probably going to get a call from their PR rep now.
Is there anything that you wish you could have added to Super Meat Boy now that you look at the finished product?
I do wish we could have added the ability for every leaderboard entry to have a replay attached to it, but it just wasn't feasible. It doesn't matter. That would just be like a one-off thing to see like somebody do an amazing time, but honestly, that's what YouTube's for.
I'll tell you what it needs. It needs a respawn button or like a kill yourself button.
No, that's called jump into a saw.
Yeah, but sometimes there's just no saws around. Obviously, rarely, but so.
There's always a way you can die, though. You can just jump off or something. Yeah, see, the reason we didn't put that in there is because so many people like fat finger different buttons when they're frustrated that somebody would be jumping and get excited and accidentally hit the kill button, and then they would die, and then they get pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd much rather have no restart button than the accidental press of the restart button, which would just be awful because you totally press it at the worst possible stressful times where you're at the end of the level and you're celebrating. And
you're at the end, your hands are sweaty, you slip off the Y button, or you slip off the X and you hit the Y, and then you're fucked. Then you start over. I would hate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's something that we talked about many times in development, and then just always came back to the conclusion of there are honestly only maybe 3 levels in the game that you can't instantly kill yourself really close to wherever you start from. What we do is just run into the saw if we want to restart. So, and I actually made sure you could never get stuck in a place that you couldn't kill yourself.
Does the Konami code work in Super Meat Boy?
I wish it did.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's only one code. There's one code in Super Meat Boy.
Don't tell them!
I'm not going to tell them what it is.
I'm
I'm not going to tell them what it is
now.
or anything about it. But yeah,
Now they know that there's a code.
that's fine.
Oh no!
Is it a reused code? Is it one you've come up with, or is it one from an old game?
I guess you'll have to find out.
Yeah.
Huh?
Find out.
You can't do that to us. That's not fair.
Yeah, we can.
No,
We're dicks, remember?
We talked early on about doing the Konami code and making it so it gave you like 99 lives, but that's it.
Yeah.
No, we didn't do that.
Okay. Are you ever going to say what the code is? Or are you going to wait for somebody to work it out?
We're going to wait for somebody to work it out. I want to see how powerful the internet is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if and what they find. The funny thing is so yeah, everybody thinks that all the characters have been announced and whatever else. They have not. There are characters that people have not found or unlocked, and we're not going to say shit about them until they find them. So, yeah, good luck, dicks.
Yeah, good luck, jerks.
You try to spoil everybody's fun early, you bastards. No, there is more there. You find it yourself.
I guess you've been doing quite a lot of podcasts. Is there a question that you wish interviewers would ask you that you haven't been asked yet?
What's my bus size?
But what is your bus size?
None of your business. This is a podcast about a video game, sir.
I I wish people would talk or ask more about the story.
Yeah.
That's actually something that I miss because I put a lot of work and time into the story as well as how I told it. And nobody's pointed out yet that I tell the whole story without dialogue or text.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a pretty fucking awesome story, if I don't say so myself. Nobody even thinks there is a story. They just think it's a joke.
The Writers Guild of America actually contacted us and wanted us to pay $100 so we could enter our game and lose.
Yeah.
What would Meat Boy's voice be like if he talked?
If he talked, it would be like Seth Rogen's voice.
Okay.
Yeah. He won't talk, though, so don't worry.
No, he can't talk.
He's not going to do like a Sonic and not talk for ages and then not shut the fuck up.
And then one day just, all right!
In your face, dudes!
Come on, Band-Aid girl! Okay! Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's good news. What do you think is the silliest thing that you've had to do to promote the game so far?
Localization.
Is that promotion?
Yeah, whatever. It's promoting it in other countries.
Yeah. Localizing for an area that doesn't have it's not legal to own a console. That was
that was pretty funny. They don't sell Xbox 360s in China, but Meat Boy's localize for Chinese, which I guess would apply other places maybe, but it seems like we're the only country that only speaks our native language, and it seems like other countries are much, much smarter than us.
You know what was extra fun while doing localization and complaining about it via Twitter was people from Germany and or France or wherever emailing us and saying, that's pointless because we all play it in English.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went into Google Translate and looked up some of the translations, and they're all weird. Save replay, when translated back into English from German, is repetition save, which doesn't make any sense.
After Super Meat Boy has sold and you've had a little break, what are your plans? Are you going to be working on a game again together, or are you going to bring more people in?
We'll do another game together. What I'm going to do in my off time is I'm going to rewrite a bunch of the engine again and make a scripting language and all kinds of visual scripting stuff for Edmund for the next game, because that's what I actually like to do the most is engine stuff. Gameplay programming is fun, but I prefer engine stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you have backup plans in case it all goes horribly wrong?
I'll get health insurance, and I won't give a shit about life anymore. I will get a paycheck every 2 weeks. I will go home at the same time every day, and I won't care about life anymore, and then I'll die when I'm 35.
Nice. Edmund, do you have health insurance now?
No, it sounds horrible, but I don't. I will soon. I have a friend of the family who's a doctor who's now lets me go in for checkups and stuff, so I'm able to bypass certain things. And I'm not in a horrible situation with health insurance now, but I will have legitimate health insurance once Meat Boy comes out. That's the goal.
Cool. So anyway, that was kind of all of our questions. We also asked people on Twitter for questions for you guys, but they were a bit more mental. So let's start with Capiche asks, have you thought about becoming vegetarians?
Yeah, I was for a couple weeks, and I felt awful. I felt weak. I normally feel weak anyway because of the beetus, but beetus and not eating enough protein and stuff, I felt like I was going to die every day. So no. However, I've gotten to a point where I can mentally convince myself that animals aren't real, and the ones that I see aren't the ones that I'm eating. So I'm able to do that because it pains me to think that a chicken is dying. However, when I eat chicken, that's not a chicken, that's chicken. So I'm able to do that. It's a little trick I learned. It's called delusion.
I was a vegetarian once for a year, I think, in middle school. It was mostly to impress the ladies because the girls that I hang out with were against animal testing, and they were cool, punky early '90s girls, I guess. And then I wanted to go back to eating meat when that didn't work out, and I couldn't go back to eating red meat. So technically, I don't. If I eat red meat now, I get pretty sick. So I don't eat red meat anymore. So I'm a hypocrite, I guess, if most people would call me a hypocrite if I say I'm a vegetarian. I have no problem with killing animals and consuming them at all, unlike Tommy. I was an animal control officer for a year, so I was very desensitized to dead animals and or dying animals and so on. I'm a heartless person, and I just kill things for fun.
Edmund doesn't have a soul, is what he's saying.
I go and I bite the nose off of dogs. I say, listen here, dog. I can eat you if I want better. And then she's like, I'm not a dog. Leave me alone.
You're at the clerk of court's office. What are you doing?
I will ask, is there a vegan option for Super Meat Boy?
What's up with all these vegan?
There is a vegan option. There is a vegan option, actually. It is puss out and don't play the game. That's the vegan option.
Sophie Holden asks, she wants to know what kind of meat Meat Boy is made of.
God damn it, Sophie Holden, no.
Don't they all want to know that? Don't they?
Well, what's the answer?
Oh my God! What can we make up this time?
He is a bunch of aborted babies in a blender, packed together and baked like a meatloaf.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's gross. I know.
They weren't aborted; they're still alive.
Yeah, no, I meant they were aborted, but they're dead now. Not that they were like toddlers.
Sarah Grail 7 asks, should Meat Boy be served well done, medium, or rare?
Come on! What the fuck, guys? Seriously?
God damn it!
Jokes. You fuck off. Go ask dumb questions to somebody who cares.
That's good.
I'm allowed to buy the game.
You're on the block list.
Indie Asylum asks, what happens if you eat Meat Boy? Do you get special powers?
No, you fuck off forever and die. That's what happens.
Yeah. If you eat Meat Boy, you get the ability to run and jump.
Yeah.
Are they all like this?
No, wait.
Every single reader question is some sort of pun on the name. Because I'm going to start making fun of their names.
Yeah, you make sure you tell us. Yeah, tell us the name, and we'll give them an answer with their name.
Okay.
I'm kind of afraid of asking the next question. Mojo Red asks, what's your favorite type of meat?
And what was his name?
Mojo Red.
Mojo Red.
Mojo Red. God damn it.
It's kind of hard to take the piss out of that, really.
Oh yeah, Mojo
Red is a dumb name anyway, so we're just going for that.
Mojo Red.
And our favorite type of meat is the one that offends you the most.
Whatever would upset you the most by us saying it is probably...
Yeah, that's our favorite.
Think of that, get mad. Think of that.
I'm all about, like, if you don't want people to eat veal, I am so about veal right now.
Jack Draken asks, after Super Meat Boy, are you going to do Super Salad Boy?
Okay, I have a question for him. Isn't Drufkin the name that... isn't that the official name for a pubic wig?
That's Merkin, but close enough.
Oh, okay. So, well, I think it should be the name for a pubic wig. So, I have to go to the store tomorrow and get fitted for my Drufkin.
And then go jack off.
Yeah.
That's why his name's Jack, because he jacks off all day. That's copyright, so I can't.
Yeah. No one can use Drufkin to refer to pubic wig anymore without our express written permission.
Oh man, keep them coming.
Dan Yukin has a lot of questions, but I'm just going to ask one of his. What is Meat Boy's origin?
It's important for us to never talk about the origin of any character in this game, which is something that I think that most developers and artists know not to do. It's a good way to destroy the mystery behind what you're doing. The moment you go and try to put logic into Mario, which they did, so when the cartoon for Mario came out and suddenly the story was there's these two brothers who are plumbers who found the secret warp zone working on the drain. Then they lend the princess a hand in the Mushroom Land, which is it's totally retarded, and it just kills the mystery. So no, you'll never know the origin of Meat Boy. Meat Boy is Meat Boy. Dr. Fetus is Dr. Fetus, and so on and so forth. And I think mystery is incredibly important when it comes to video games and that sort of stuff too. It keeps it interesting. The moment you explain stuff, it's kind of like a book where you don't know what the people look like, and you kind of get to make up what they look like in your head, or like when you hear it when Sonic suddenly had a voice, that sort of thing. Like it just kind of kills it. So no, you'll never see like some story of a butcher who had a slab of meat that was contaminated with toxic waste, and he chopped it in half, and Meat Boy popped out, and I don't know.
It's like Pinocchio, but meat.
It wasn't his nose.
But Meat Boy was supposed to be a sex doll.
Doomlaser asks, how many lines of code are there in Super Meat Boy? Getting a bit serious now.
That's Mark Johns, and I actually have a count, and I think it's for over all platforms. I think it's around 120,000 lines. That's including the PS3 lines that are just worthless now. But the engine runs on PS3, but yeah, about 120,000 or so.
Is PS3 definitely not happening?
No, it can't. Like they were a little late to the party. The real reason is we hate Sony, and the cell is complex to code on. That's the real reason, as provided by the internet.
That's what the internet.
Learn to program on the cell.
Well, what else, Tommy? No, wait. It's also because our game's so shitty.
Yeah, it didn't pass Sony QA or quality control.
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple other things that obviously are not correct that have been floating around the internet as well. It is as simple as Tommy said. They were a little late to the game. We took their silence as them not being interested, so we simply signed with Microsoft. Unless you're some sort of EA, pretty hard to get a launch on all consoles through Microsoft.
Yeah, it was just bad timing on their part. They actually asked about Goo after, like, 2 months after I sent them a working build on the PS3 for Super Meat Boy. And it's like, dude, I canceled Goo like a long fucking time ago. And I just sent you a game that actually works on the PS3. And they were like, oh. And then like a month later, I got another email that was like, hey, when are we going to get a build to play? I'm like in January you got one. This was in April. But yeah, it was just a timing thing. We were just talking to Microsoft. Microsoft was super excited about it, and they basically said, okay, well, you can have your month exclusive on WiiWare. And I was like, what about PS3? We'd have to go back into negotiation for PS3. And since I hadn't heard from them, we both just kind of decided, oh, never mind.
Chuligans wants to know why he can't buy any Dr. Peters shirts on Newgrounds anymore.
Because they're sold out. See, I didn't make the shirts. Tom made the shirts. Those were limited editions, so those will never be back in stock. But I'm going to personally order a few of a similar design on black shirt, possibly after PC launch. So maybe then. We don't really have money, and which also is interesting because we've had so many different types of merchandise that have come out, and we've basically gone about this by essentially borrowing money and then repaying it with sales, ordering comics, selling some, or giving Newgrounds or other places shitloads of signed comics to sell to make back the money that they had helped us invest in the printing or the t-shirts and whatever else. So Newgrounds gets basically all the profit from the t-shirts that were printed, both Dr. Fetus and Meat Boy, and we're just essentially doing it for fans to have something to buy.
Oyun Mei Munu asks, why Meat Boy is chasing a bandage girl rather than a meat girl?
Meat Boy is chasing Bandage Girl.
He's got jungle fever.
Yeah. No, try to think of Meat Boy as not what everybody's obviously literally thinking of him as a literal piece of steak or meat product. Think of him more as a boy who doesn't have skin, essentially made of meat. So he's quite exposed, right, to the elements, and overall he's very fresh and raw. And a Band-Aid Girl would be his ultimate goal of protection, or completing his outer skin, or whatever you want to call it. So that's why she's Band-Aid Girl and not Meat Girl, because he needs her to live.
Markwork asks when Meat Boy the movie is going to be coming out.
Soon.
Yeah, we're gonna have a show on Adult Swim.
Okay.
And it's just gonna be podcasts where we make fun of people's screen names.
Awesome. The last question is like our regular question from Rob Farron. He asks, do you ever code naked?
Oh yeah, dude. Sometimes you just get up and you just code.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, putting on clothes sucks. It's stupid. You're just gonna take them off again to shower in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Awesome.
Oh yeah, like there was a time, honestly, this is a true story. There was a time where the air conditioning didn't work in my house, and yeah, I just naked, whatever, who cares?
Yeah, Tommy doesn't program with clothes on because programming with a raging boner in your pants usually hampers development.
Yeah, it just scrapes me.
Right, final questions. I guess we were going to ask, is there anything that you'd like to say to your fans?
I think it's pretty cool that people like are so interested and so gung ho about the game that they haven't even played yet, and that they want to buy stickers and they want to buy T-shirts and comics and all this stuff, and they're just doing it off of like blind faith that the game's going to be good. And I think it's really cool to be a part of a game that has a following before it even comes out, and it just it's like a lot of love, and we love our fans, even the ones that ask the lame ass questions about what kind of meat he's made out of. We still love you guys because you're showing an interest in something that we've only given out to the public as a promise that it's a really, really good game, and that's cool, and we applaud you for doing so. Also, we want your money.
Yeah, I'd second that times 2. Just
Nice.
No, yeah, it's really, 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 really cool to. I mean, I'm going beyond, of course, people buying blindly for something that they hope will be awesome. I think some of the coolest moments for me are going on a forum, seeing somebody bash the game, and then seeing a mass amount of other people bashing that person, and then just raving about how great the game is. That's just really awesome. It's really cool to feel like you have so many people that kind of have your back, and go out of their way to explain to people, any kind of misunderstandings about whatever else, and basically quote us on things. It's great. I hope they really like the game. We put a great deal of work into it, and it's really with their support we've been able to get through this hellish development. I love our fans a lot. We have the greatest fans. Even the 12-year-olds who continuously ask me to put their video game characters in our game that's already finished.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing we were going to ask is, if we were to do some kind of competition for our readers, would you be willing to kind of provide some codes for the winners?
Of course.
Sure.
Awesome. We'll definitely have to set that up at some point soon. Okay, so yes, that is the end. Thank you to both Edmund and Tommy for talking to us, and thanks for everybody listening. Thanks to Solai for his intro music for the podcast, and we'll be back again next week. So, bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.